Okay, welcome to Chess of the 21st Century. Now, in this lecture, I'm going to lie a little, but that's okay. Because as far as I'm concerned, I'm getting married next week. As far as you're concerned at home, I got married a week ago. Now you know how long the videos take to get on YouTube. Today's person, when I said I was lying, this person was born in the year 2000. So if you watch the Seinfeld episode, you could argue if it was 21st century or not. Okay, only if you watch Seinfeld. If you don't watch Seinfeld, you can't talk about it. Okay, now Sam Sevian is one of the top players in the country and in the world. And he's the #1 15-year-old, although I think he's turning 16 as we're speaking. And he turned 16 this year, so probably in a few seconds. And as soon as he turns 16, he'll be in the rear view mirror, you know, looking at Jeffrey Zhang, who's even higher rated. But we'll talk about him in some other lecture. This is the last lecture of 2016, and I mean ever. I don't just mean in chess. I mean, that's it. Okay? And we're going to look at two of his games. One was played when he was 12 in 2012. Possibly he was 11. Nobody knows. And I'm going to look at a game that he played a few months ago against Alexey Shirov, which is so crazy, I can't do any of analysis. It'll be wrong. And I've never been wrong, except when I was wrong. Okay, the first game doesn't last very long. It's against the French expert, Tatev Abrahamyan. Unfortunately, she's a French expert, not a chess expert. No, wait, this is the French defense, not the language. Okay, and Tatev's here right now. She's running the Twitter feed for the London Chess Classic. And that's why you're smarter than me at home. You know who won the London Chess Classic, and I got nothing over here. No, I'm just kidding. I know Wesley so won. Okay. All right. And by the way, Topalov came in last. What a bold prediction. All right. So this is Sevian versus Tatev. I said it was a French. If you were here in the lecture earlier, and you were not, but they were, we saw lots of Frenches. Okay? And in those Frenches, white played e5, but not this time. Knight c3. Okay? And here, black has two common moves. Let's call it an unknown student, Zoe. What do you think black can play here? Bishop b4 what? Oh, the move bishop b4. And what's the name of that variation? It's named after your favorite player from the 19th century. It's Simon Winawer. Isn't he your favorite? No, he's nobody's favorite. I talked to his mom and she's like, oh, come on. All right, so the Winawer variation, bishop b4, is that what Tatev played? The answer is yes. Very good. And when I played the French defense, before your father was born, I also played bishop b4. Doesn't make a lot of sense because he's older than me, but let's not quibble. Okay, and the other common move is knight to f6. Grandmasters play both. Yasser Seirawan is against bishop b4. And even though it's really cold outside, he's picketing now, don't play bishop b4. Okay, you can go outside and look. It's true. Yeah. Okay, so bishop b4. And as my last student said in a private lesson, who's Yasser Seirawan? I teach only the best and brightest here in St. Louis. He's at the Nationals right now. See, I wonder if he's winning. Okay, bishop b4, pinning the knight, e5, c5, a3, all very normal. Takes, takes. The main line of the Winawer. It's like Yuri Shulman's black all over again. Okay, knight e7, and I've had black in this position probably more than 30 times, but probably the last time was 1986. Okay, queen g4. Queen g4 is the most aggressive. And if you learn nothing else today, and you won't, Sam Sevian always plays the most aggressive move. He doesn't kid around. I was telling jokes with him, and he said, I don't kid around, and he walked away. I was like, what? I couldn't believe it.
But queen g4 earlier, right? Yes.
Well, now you're looking at the game Fischer-Feingold. I don't know that game. Oh, wait, yeah, I do. Okay.
Right after bishop b4, queen g4.
Well, now you're talking crazy, as you often do. Bishop b4, the Fischer game with my dad was a3, takes, 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 queen g4. What's funny is, my son started playing this with white. What's wrong with him?
I play queen g4 right away without a6.
Yeah, but now you're talking crazy. Yeah. Crazy like a fox, not like Fox News. Is that going to be edited out? No? Okay, good. Really? Wow. You're not going to trump that? All right. Might edit that out. Okay. Well, queen, everything's a move, but e5 is the main move. Okay, this is the sharpest, the craziest, except for your line. Okay, there's sharp, then there's crazy. Okay, now when I was black here, in 1980s, I would play queen c7. Man, it's been a long time. Okay, and I think everybody castles now. I never did that. When you play the French, you're like, I'm not going to castle. I don't need to castle. Okay, and a lot of people castle now. And in fact, Tatev has very good videos on the internet of the French defense. Possibly not even on our website, on a competitor's site. Okay, bishop to d3, knight c6, bishop g5. Again, Sam always plays maybe not the most theoretical move, but the most aggressive. Okay? And sometimes Sam's king is running around, sometimes he's pushing all of his pawns, sometimes he's losing, but he still wins. Queen a5. What's the threat? Anybody? Ben Simon. The fork. Very good. Queen takes c3 check. Knight e2, that stops the fork. Now you may have noticed this bishop doesn't have a lot of squares to go to. So c4 could win the bishop. But Sam didn't develop his bishop not to sacrifice it. Okay? Sam sacrifices everything, every move. So if you force him to sacrifice, he's even happier. And if I can tell a story about myself losing every game, about a year ago, I had a very long streak, 18 months in a row without losing. Okay? And what that means is I didn't play very much, and when I did, my opponents were under 1,200. I mean, not really, but most of that's true. And then I played Sam Sevian. Okay, and I had 3.5 out of 5, and he had 4.5 out of 5. And then after the game, I still had 3.5. How's that possible? Oh yeah, I lost. And Sam sacrificed everything and then mated me. Okay, and then he started trash talking. I couldn't believe it. Okay, so queen a4 and h4, rawr, Sam Sevian. c4 winning the bishop. Sam's very perturbed. No, he doesn't care. King takes, king to d2. King d2 is a defensive move recommended by Ben Simon. Now, obviously, black wants to take this pawn, and then it's very easy to defend the black king. After king d2, queen takes pawn is not recommended. Most people who sacrifice a bishop then don't play king d2. That's not their follow-up. Okay? And this is a sacrifice that's a long-term sacrifice. Black is up a piece, but Sam Sevian's not very concerned about those pieces. He's like, yeah, you're up a piece. Good for you. And those pieces can't do anything, and I'm the expert in not doing anything. Okay? I've been married a week as far as you know. You could ask my wife. Okay? Rook h8. Bam, that's good defense. Putting the rook on the open file. h5, knight f5. h6. He's trying to get a queen. What's the only way for black to block up the king side? G6. Yeah. Now there's no attack, so Sam resigned. Let's go on to the next game. See, that was called a joke. See? Now, when lower-weighted players are playing, they're like, am I in check? And then 10 minutes later, they're like, nope. It takes them about 10 minutes to figure it out. Then they're like, whose turn is it? They look at the clock. Then they're like, what's that? And then they raise their hand and ask for the arbiter. The arbiter says, that's a clock. Then they look at their score sheet to see whose move it is. And they're like, wait, I didn't write down the last 8 moves. Okay? And this is what the low-rated player is doing when they're playing. When the high-rated player is playing, they're trying to figure out where to put their pieces. Okay? So for example, if this was a bug house game, now we're getting interesting, then white would play knight f6 checkmate with advantage. Okay? And since this is not a bug house game, we can't do that. But we can try to get our knight to a good square. There's 2 good squares for the white knight, f6 and g5. Then we can break through on the king side. Okay, so Sam played bishop f6, attacking the rook, but he just wants to get his knight to g5. Then he has a pretty good attack. Okay, rook g8, saving her rook. Knight g1. Now, if the game ended all of a sudden, like there was an earthquake or black's flag fell, then white would already have 3 pieces set up for the next game. Very impressive, giving himself less work to do. So knight g1 makes more sense than knight f4. Then if that scenario happened, there'd be a lot of work to do. Now, there's 2 paths to the g5 square. Okay? And if he really murders him, we could call it a shining path. No, nothing? No? Nobody? No. Okay. So, yeah, it's an old reference. All right. Now, you have to admit, knight g5 would give white the advantage. At home, they're like, I don't admit anything. Okay? And, well, that's checkmate. So, okay. So knight takes d4, we must get counterplay. Okay, and the idea is if we take the knight, black will play c3 check, the d pawn is hanging, black has a counterattack against the king. Unfortunately, for black, if we don't take the knight, we're just threatening c2. So Sam played rook c1 and said, you attack c2, I defend it with my king. You attack c2 to defend it with my rook. Okay, you're not going to play c3 check and take on d4. I don't want my piece back. All I want is knight g5 mate. Knight b5, knight f3. Now, even you at home know the threat. No, I'm just kidding, you don't. Okay, it's knight g5 mate. Okay. And some of the people here know the threat. Let's see, Ben Simon, what's the threat? Knight g5. Probably black should stop that. Yeah, he's like, wait a minute, yeah, what's going on here? So let's see who's the smartest in the audience. How do we stop knight g5 mate? Well, then knight g5, h7 is annoying. And I know annoying, I'm getting married for the 3rd time. Exactly. Yeah. Or as far as you know at home, been married 3 times. Possibly divorced 3 times by the time this video comes out. We never know.
Marriage is not a word. You know that, right?
What is it? Sentence. Very good. Yeah. Yeah. See, that's why there's the pros and the amateurs. Okay, so after knight g5, white's looking good. White sacrificed a piece, and he's not very concerned about black's extra piece. In fact, I would say white's ahead a piece, because these pieces aren't they're not so good. Okay, so what did black do? Anybody? Stop mate in 1? Heads up D? No? No, nothing? Well, she stopped mate in 1. G5, yeah. Okay, and knight g5 probably wins, but I want a beautiful finish. I don't want some easy finish. Queen h5, threatening queen takes f7. If you play rook g6, then like me, the rook is overworked. The rook is stopping queen f7 and knight g5, so we play knight g5. And if rook takes, queen f7 mate. Well, not mate, but it's worse than mate. You're too young to turn away when you see this. It's really, it's not for children. Yeah, there's some things you don't want to know. This, okay, and then man, it's check. Ugh, and then double, triple checkmate. Horrible. Okay, so rook g6 doesn't cut it. She played knight to d6, defending f7. Hooray! Okay, now very funny move.
G4.
That's not funny. Pawn takes knight. Haha, I tricked you. Yeah, knight takes. Okay, now comes the funny move. In this position, it looks like white plays knight g5, rook g5, queen g5. But then black plays, I'm calling on you. Close. Knight e4, winning the queen. Yeah. So if I blunder, and I was blundering before you were born, then knight e4 check wins the queen. Right. And if knight f5, queen g7 is a nice win, because we double, triple discovered mate. Okay. Sam Sevian's like, man, knight e4, that's a good defense. It's only a good defense because it's check. If it wasn't check, it's not a good defense. So he not only played the move that stopped it from being check, but like me, even before he met me, he might have met me in 2012. No, he met me in 2012. He set up for the next game. Ben Simon, King E1. Yeah. Now knight E4 is not check. And now when black resigned, he had less pieces to set back up. Very nice.
Was Rook E1 too? No.
Rook E1's legal, but King E1 stops knight E4 check.
Rook also takes some E4.
Yeah, but if you play knight E4, I mate should 1. So your move loses many tempi and doesn't set up for the next game. Yeah. Now, in this position, material's about equal, but these pieces aren't so good over here. Not the best. Okay, so Sam actually plays like the prototypical young child. Usually when I'm showing games, I'm like, wow, this 11-year-old is a great positional player. It has a lot of endgame experience somehow. And I say, usually kids just sack all their pieces and mate you. But Sam sacks all his pieces and mate you. And then when you get mated, you're like, dang, I got mated. Okay, I hate when that happens. So Sam's a very tactical player, very tricky player, and he calculates very accurately, even though he's only 11 or 12 years old. Now that game was tame compared to the next game. The next game I can't annotate because it's too hard. Okay, so is there a thumb I can suck and crawl in the corner somewhere? Okay, and this is the game that he played this year against Alexey Shirov. Now, this game actually makes a lot of sense to show now because there's a tournament in Europe you never heard of, the European Rapid, even I haven't heard of it, the European Rapid Championship, and they've played 6 rounds, and one player has 6 out of 6, Shirov. So he might be the European Rapid Champion as of like 2 weeks ago for you. Okay, although probably not. I think he's going to play good players now. And, yeah. Shirov doesn't do well against good players, but against like me, Ben Simon, Ben Conover, anybody named Ben, then he's looking good.
Is this a rapid game? What's the time?
No, nobody knows. No, I think it's a slow game. Yeah.
Slow game?
I think so. Yeah. I wouldn't bet my life. Okay, E4, because Sam plays E4. And they play a Scotch. Hooray! So now you're happy.
My opening.
You're not going to be happy in a second, but you're happy now.
I'm happy for now.
Okay, knight F6.
I'm still okay with this.
Knight takes. Knight C3 is also possible, but generally preferred by lower rated players. Queen E2. So they used to play E5 and then Queen E2. But E5 attacks a knight. We should attack things till later. Okay, Queen E2, not the most common move. Bishop B4 check. Now, this is sort of a nuance in a lot of Scotches now. They're losing a tempo by allowing white to play C3, and the idea is your knight can't go to C3. I don't know. Okay, bishop goes back, and Queen G4 every game. King F8. Again, if we castle, as in my lecture that you didn't see, but some of you did, then bishop H6 could be annoying. Could be. So King F8, Queen E4. So in the lecture I gave before this lecture, I was explaining how the guy who was winning was moving all of his pieces out, and the other guy wasn't moving any of his pieces out. In this game, white just moves his queen every move. Okay, on the other hand, black has doubled pawns, black has an isolated pawn, and black's king is on F8. So what do I know? As my dad would say back in the day, both sides stand badly.
What does the computer say?
Yeah, everything's equal. Computer always says equal.
They both badly.
Yeah, I hate the computer. Equal. And I'm like, what? How does that help me? Okay, now the queen on G4 can get attacked by the bishop on C8 and by the pawn on 8. So, okay, Queen E4. Queen's in the center. Okay, D6, C4, and C4 is?
Explosive.
Explosive, yeah, C4. Explain that to her later. Okay. Yeah. You think she knows? Yeah. Hopefully not. If she does, then you're not too happy. No. No? Nothing? Perfect. Good denial. We believe it. Okay. Knight to B6. Queen takes C6. Now, if I was white, I wouldn't make any of these moves. I develop my pieces in castle, and then I get outplayed and I lose. Sam Sevian doesn't do that. He plays the most aggressive, double-edged, tricky move, and that's what Shirov does. So both players are happy.
Didn't study morphing.
Yeah, this would be a great match because all their games would be totally crazy. Okay, so white's a pawn up, black's king's on f8, and white doesn't move any of his pieces. So this looks like a game you would see in a children's tournament. Unfortunately for Shirov, he's not a child, but Sam is. So more experience for Sam. Rook b8. Okay, bishop b7, queen b5. White's made so many queen moves, nobody can count them all. Let's call in a random person. Ben Simon. How many queen moves has white made?
One.
I don't know is correct. No, that's the correct answer. I'm going to say 5. Queen e2, queen g4, queen e4, queen c6, queen b5. Okay, and white put all of his pieces there. Okay, but white's a pawn up. White can still castle either way if necessary, and black can never castle. So double-edged. Knight d7, unleashing on the queen and attacking the pawn 1,000 times. I like retreats too. ED. Now it's getting too complicated. Bishop takes d6. Queen g5. If white can trade queens, white's up a pawn, and black has 2 isolated pawns. Okay, f6, breaking my rule. They don't go to my lectures very often. I can hear them yelling at home. Wow, you guys are loud. And they're loud in the future, and I can hear them. That's how loud they are. Wow. Never play f6, one of my rules.
Jordan would say yeah.
Queen h5. Now I don't know how many times the queen moved. I stopped counting. Queen e7 check. Bishop e2. Bishop g2, establishing material parity. Rook g1. Bishop e4. c5. Yeah, well, who would see c5? I see c5 and I still don't see it. Yeah. c5 is good because you make the white squared bishop on e2 much stronger. Knight c5, rook g7, the points. Why did he play rook g7? Even if it hung a rook for nothing, he would still do it because he has to sacrifice. Okay, so it's very obvious that queen takes allows bishop h6, right, Ben Simon? You agree? Queen takes bishop h6? Okay, you agree. Okay. If you don't take it, that's probably good for white because the rook's pretty good. Okay, so king takes. Bishop h6 check. Now all of you can find the right move. They still didn't find it. I don't know. Okay, the only legal move, king g8.
Bishop c4.
Castles. If you play bishop c4 check, I'll play bishop d5 check like in the movies.
That's it.
In the movies, when one guy checks, the other guy checks back. In real chess, not so right.
Counter check.
Now you know why he played c5. Bishop c4 is coming. Okay, now, in my other classes, white wouldn't be able to castle, especially the 1 o'clock class, because the bishop can go here. It's not Yuri Averbach approved. Anybody? No? Well, you at home get it. They don't get it at home. Okay, Yuri Averbach was playing Purdy, and the position wasn't Purdy. And Purdy castled queenside in a similar fashion, and Averbach thought that was illegal. And Purdy's like, no. And he's like, oh, okay. And funnily enough, I've had 2 students who were A players, that's already funny, and they castled queenside in similar fashion, and their opponents who were also A players stopped the clock and called the arbiter and said that was illegal. Everybody's an A player. In both instances, you can't even make this up, the arbiters were A players. And I was thinking, if half the A players in the country don't know how to castle, what's the arbiter? Arbiter can make any ruling, who knows? And in both cases, the arbiters laughed at my students' opponents, so that was good. The arbiters actually knew how to castle. Okay, if Mike Kummer was the arbiter, were you thinking that? Because I was. Man, Mike Kummer was the arbiter. Okay. Anyway, castle is legal no matter what the 1 o'clock class says. Okay, now bishop c4 is pretty serious. Rook g1 check is annoying, bishop c4 check is annoying, and black's rook on h8 isn't the best rook ever. Okay, but everybody has to sack a rook. Okay, bishop g6, nice. Check, knight e6 is forced. Queen h3, threatening to take on e6. Reasonable, right? Okay, yeah. King f7. Knight d5. Man, it's getting annoying. Now, when you're playing somebody 27, 2800, in this case 2700, maybe even 2600, they're pretty tricky. Okay, run DMC tricky. They're tricky. They ain't kidding around. Okay, if you thought rook takes g7 was amazing, he makes moves you would never consider, like that one. Very similar to rook takes g7. Notice that now black's attacking. Yeah, got rook c2 check, then discovered everything check, winning the queen maybe. So for example, let's look at a variation. It's not going to be right because I'm looking at it, but check, check. After that check, I could play bishop to d3. So actually, I'm going to go here. Actually, I'm going to go here. I keep changing my mind. Wow, I like all these moves for black. I might like rook takes c4 now. This wins, but rook takes c4 might also win. And now, if you play king a1, bishop e5 is annoying. If you play bishop b3, now I'm starting to like this check. And rook takes queen. Yeah. Okay, so black's winning. So rook takes b2. So king takes b2, rook b8 check. Who's getting mated over here? Who's sacking a rook? What's going on around here? Bishop b3, bishop e5 check, knight back to c3. So this knight's pinned to the king. This rook is pinning this bishop. The bishop is pinning the knight. And the knight's attacked a couple of times. And for some reason, black is up a pawn. Seems like everybody sacks all their pieces. There should be some material disparity, but no. Okay, so great defense. c5, threatening the explosive move. c4. f4. It's not really a sacrifice because the knight on e6 is pinned. c4, takes, takes. Who's your money on? I would bet on the guy who the lecture is about. But if I didn't know who the lecture was about, it's like a Hollywood movie. Like, okay, that guy's the star of the movie. I don't know who that guy is. So now you know who to bet on. What's that? Now, actually, I made this move in 1990 against Claude Landenberg in Budapest. I don't know what round it was. But he was mating me on the queen's side. I was mating him on the king's side. He had a pawn on b3, and I made the same move. I already made this move. How did he block the C file? I mean, the B file. Close. A4. Yeah, I played A4. And then I mated him while he was mating me, but I mated him first. Knight C5. Both sides are still attacking. EF. Queen C7. Rook D4. Rook D8. Now material's equal. And discovered check. Check again. Now, some of you are confused. You're like, why didn't he win the queen? Well, because your queen's also hanging with check. It's important that both queens are hanging with check. Then you know you're playing good chess. Or that you should play another game like, golf or something, because chess is too hard. Right. Knight D3, king B1, check, king C1, check, king B2. Now, black's mating white, or so he thinks, but if he doesn't mate him, then white's attack is pretty good. So black better mate him. Check, king A3. Looks like he's mating him. Queen A1, queen B2, queen B4, king D5. Are there more checks? Very good, winning the game. Yeah. If he plays queen C5, there's a queen on E3, so you distract the king. Bishop E4 check.
played?
He played bishop e4, and then queen takes e4, queen c5 mate. And after bishop e4 check, white resigned. Yeah. An amazing game because both players sacrificed all their pieces and both sides had winning positions according to my engine, even at the same time. Right. So both sides sacrificed to rook, both sides were getting mated, and eventually Sam won. A week after this game, he was here at the chess club. I don't remember why. Oh, I think it was for the Kasparov chess school. I think that's why.
Which one, Shirov?
No, Sevian.
Okay.
Yeah. And his dad said, did you see his game with Shirov? And I said, no. He said, you should see it. And I saw it. Oh. So he was right. Yeah. And because of players like Shirov and Sevian and Topalov and MVL and Nakamura and many others, we have exciting games like this. So if you didn't like Carlsen Karyakin, you're right. Okay? And it's not because chess is boring, it's because the players make it boring. And if they don't want to make it boring, like these guys and like Psycho Darshan and many other strong players, Wesley So, there's a lot of interesting chess still to be played. We don't have to play 9-10 draws in a row if we don't want to. We can have games like this, and man, then the players, they don't sleep too well at night because it's tough. Then you got to play more chess after this game and before. Yeah, it's hard. Okay, so remember, if you're playing me and we have a game like this, I offer a draw. Okay. All right, that was chess of the 21st century. Unfortunately for Shirov, he's from the 20th century, so not good. Yeah. That's why I lost to Sam last time we played. Had nothing to do with how good we were. I was born in the wrong century. Yeah. All right, see you guys next week. And the last video of 2016, even though you already stopped recording. I'm out.